This last Sunday, the Star Tribune out of Minnesota published an online article written by Dennis Anderson that talked about how unregulated farm tiling was putting the state's waters at risk. That's the title of the article. And I have some issues with some of the stuff in that article. For one, there was really no facts. It was basically a lengthy opinion talking about how he doesn't like drain tiling because he's pretty confident it's destroying our waters and causing the hypoxia in the Gulf of Mexico. And then at the end of it, he mentioned that we need to make sure we vote in the correct governor so that they can appoint a 7-person citizens commission that will regulate the DNR, which is our Department of Natural Resources, so that the DNR can enforce drain tile a lot better for the farmers. That's basically what the article said. I have a lot of issues with what that article said, and I'm just going to talk about it for a little bit here because it's driving me crazy. First of all, I want people to realize that I am a farmer. I grew up out here. I live out here. My parents live out here. I have a brother. I have 4 children. I have a wife. I care about my community and where I'm at out here. I care about the soil, I care about the water, and I care about the air. If I don't care about my dirt, who's immediately affected more than me? Nobody. I am the person who is immediately in trouble when I harm my soil. So the last thing I want to do is harm the way that I make my livelihood. And so Dennis, when you talk about drain tile being a soul-sucking drag on land, water, and wildlife, it really gets to me. It really gets to me. Do you really believe that I want to put plastic drain tile in my dirt that allows all of my nutrients to get immediately taken out of the field and into the streams? Is that what you think? Do you think I want to dump expensive fertilizer and expensive pesticides onto this field so that it can get into the tile lines and into the water? Why do you think I spend money on fertilizer and pesticide? Why do you think I put nitrogen in my field? I need the plants to use that nitrogen. I do not want it down in my tile lines. Shame on you. Shame on you for writing an article that has absolutely no facts within it, that has no basis to sit on. You didn't do any real research. You spewed off about what you think is harming the environment because you don't like drain tile and you don't know anything about it. All right, I'm sorry if that was a little bit harsh, but Dennis and the Star Tribune, you have really gotten under my skin with this because I can really tell by your sanctimonious article that you don't have a whole lot of facts behind what you're writing about.
Hey, Zach.
Randy, the master pipe layer, what are you doing here in the middle of my rant about drain tile? Have you read that article by Dennis Anderson that the Star Tribune published?
Yep, that's
Interesting.
Pretty much been the talk of the week at work. If there's one thing that's for clean water, it's pattern tiling.
Don't bring science into this, Randy. Don't even try to dispute with facts. It's the opinion of a guy who doesn't like drain tile.
Yep.
That's all this is.
And it's not
some
even
guy that wants a commission put in place.
There's a big misconception between not liking drain tile and not understanding drain tile.
Right.
So you hear drainage tile. So what's the first thing you think of when you hear drainage tile? We're draining something.
Right.
What's there to drain? Well, wetlands. Of course you're draining wetlands.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, nobody knows. If you're not a farmer, you don't know when somebody talks about seepage tile.
Right.
And the perforations in the tile, that pattern tile, it's not pulling that surface water directly into an open drain. It's filtering through the soil and slowly getting into that pipe.
Your pools are doing the same thing. You're running a sand filter on your pools.
Right.
We're doing the same thing.
Exactly the same thing. You can't drain a wetland, guys. You just can't do that.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
literally
illegal. If you've seen somebody drain a wetland, they broke the law.
If you think a practice like pattern tiling is regulated in Minnesota, given its impact on public waterways and other resources, you'd be wrong.
That's a quote from a reporter at the Star Tribune, a completely inaccurate, opinionated quote stated as a fact and printed by the Star Tribune. It's crazy.
To get a permit is generally 6 to 9 months. It starts with going to the NRCS. Then they send that over to a team built of 3 or 4 people to get a wetland determination. Then you have a watershed you got to turn your permit into. First it goes to their engineer. Then a letter gets sent out to the surrounding all the border landowners. I spend half my winter working on permits.
So when he's talking about unregulated farm tiling, he just doesn't know what he's talking about.
No. Yeah.
It's not like you can go pull drain tile through cattails,
Right.
and then the next year you come back and grow 200 bushel corn there. It's just not, it's not like that. It's not like Dennis Anderson at the Star Tribune wants you to think it is.
Yes.
It's not like that at all. Beer break. Oh, I like how he talked about how tile lines help water move as fast as possible. You want to explain the sponge effect and how he's completely wrong again?
We pattern tile this stuff. We're drying that ground profile, which is basically a sponge.
Yep.
We're drying out them pockets, putting oxygen into the soil so that it can handle rain events.
A soil molecule is only going to hold X amount of water. It's going to hold water and oxygen. If it's full of too much water, there's not any oxygen in there, so the plants won't grow.
Yeah.
The nitrogen can leach down when the water does leave, and that soil isn't going to hold any extra water when you do get rain. So
Right.
when you get rain, that the water has nowhere to go. If the soil's already waterlogged, all it can do is run over the top.
Yes.
And that's what can cause this erosion and take this nice black soil with it, which I don't want. And if it can't go in, it's going to go over the top.
Right.
Because it's going downhill no matter what.
Yeah. So the pattern tiling or the subsurface drainage is lowering peak. And university after university studies have proven that it lowers peak flows during rain events because of the sponge effect.
Yep.
The
It allows the soil to hold water or hold the rain rather than over the top and into the river and
Right.
having the river rise up real quick because there's already a bunch of water gone.
Yep.
Really.
So then when you're talking about that, I mean, let's move right to the phosphorus
Yep.
running through.
Yep.
So phosphorus is directly tied to soil, right? You're better on
Yeah,
this.
the soil has a negative charge, the phosphorus has a positive charge. So scientifically, phosphorus is going to bind to that soil. It's not going to leave, it's not going to leach through that soil and into the water. When the water goes through that soil, the phosphorus stays with the soil. The only way that phosphorus is leaving with the stream is if the soil goes downstream with it.
Right.
So that's how the phosphorus gets in the water, is by taking the soil with it. Well, the last thing I want, like I said before, is for my soil to leave the field and go into the stream.
Soil takes how many years to rebuild? I mean,
Hundreds.
Yeah.
Hundreds of years to rebuild an inch of topsoil.
Yeah.
Things like cover crops and no-till can help that. I've talked a lot about that, where I wish we could get away with that. We'll maybe try experimenting with it some more again, but in the past that just hasn't worked here. Very, very little no-till, very few cover crops in this area. Drain tile is one thing that typically in this area of the state does provide a pretty big return on investment. As long as you're doing it right, you're going to get your money back out of that drain tile. But we're not doing it because we're just greedy and we want to grow higher yielding crops. Yeah, we want to grow higher yielding crops, and drain tile helps us do that when you do it right. But we wouldn't be allowed to do it if it was as harmful to the environment as Dennis makes it sound here. There's been some organizations in the state who have sent in numerous samples that come directly out of tile lines. And I couldn't give you an exact number, but in a majority of the cases, the water coming out of those tile lines meets the drinking water standard for infants.
Yeah.
I mean, it's safe for anybody to drink, and it's coming right out of the tile lines and into the stream. And that's the stuff that they're saying is poisoning the waters in the Gulf of Mexico.
We've done a couple times, two different instances where we were working and the farmer just happened to be drilling a new well.
Yep.
When you get done drilling a new well, you send in a water sample. See
Yep.
what kind of water you got there.
Yep.
So both those instances, we went and grabbed a sample from our tile outlet and sent it in with it, and they'll come back just about matching.
So the stuff coming out of the tile outlet was about the same as
About
the
the
stuff
same
that
as-
was down in the ground anyway.
That they're pumping out, yeah, for their well.
For the well.
Well, in another video this summer, when I'm working on a pattern job,
Yep.
we'll go out there and we'll have a drink of water out of the outlet.
We're gonna do it. Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. We're gonna have a drink of water out of the outlet, and yeah, I'm gonna spend a day with you on a pattern tile job, and we're gonna prove this all wrong, and we're gonna show that pattern tiling is not a soul-sucking drag on land, water, and wildlife, translating into the state's natural resources being doomed. A 7-person committee Who's the governor going to appoint to that? Anybody that knows anything about drain tile, you suppose?
I'm sure yeah.
He'll take that into consideration?
Yeah, it'll be all the aid guys.
Right.
You know, he'll be out here.
He'll be calling guys
Western
like you that work
Minnesota.
with drain tile. He'll be talking to farmers. He'll be making sure that
Crop-
our voices are heard, since
Yeah.
we are, 2% of the entire
Crop
population.
consultants, you'll probably be talking to crop
Sure.
consultants.
The
or,
people that work with soil and water every single day.
University guys who've been studying this since the 80s and earlier.
Right.
Yeah,
I think that's
who it'd be. Why wouldn't it be?
I don't think it would be. I don't think so.
It just
I don't
doesn't-
think that's who would be on that committee at all.
It doesn't make sense though. Why
No.
would-
I think Dennis Anderson wants to be on that committee.
Oh, I'm pretty sure Dennis Anderson would be there. Yeah.
And maybe he should be, but if Dennis Anderson wants to be on that committee, somebody who knows something about drain tile should be on that committee as well. He closes it off with Minnesota's conservation groups need to join together and get this idea in front of Minnesota gubernatorial candidates to determine who among them, if any, would support this. Otherwise, the fading in recent years of Minnesota duck, pheasant, muskrat, butterfly, bee, and moose populations and clean water will be just the beginning. I'm going to be completely honest with you, Randy. I haven't seen a single moose in any of my fields for 10 years. And it's because of drain tile, more than likely.
Yeah, because you've seen a lot prior to 10 years. You'd see them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I bet.
About once
Or
every 2
something.
years, there's a moose in the county somewhere.
Yeah.
But it dies because it gets near drain tile.
Oh, is that the deal?
That's the deal. It's got to be, right? Oh, I did like the part about the Vikings maybe winning the Super Bowl next year.
Yeah.
This should be in the sports section because it talks just as much about factual sports as it does drain tile.
Yeah. We should invite Dennis out.
We should. Absolutely, we should.
Yeah.
We should.
He could maybe bring Dayton with him.
Yes.
That would.
Dennis Anderson, Mark Dayton, and Dr. Tribune. Anybody from the Star Tribune, come on out here. You're more than welcome to come out here. I think they could join you on a tile job.
Oh yeah, we're an open book.
I'll come with. I'm nicer than I come across in this video because I'm so worked up right now, but we're nice guys.
You seem pretty. That's why I'm on this side of the weights.
Right, yeah. Millennial farmer and master pipe layer out. Erroneous.
Erroneous, wrong, incorrect.
Well, Dennis.